This is episode number 6 from Remo podcast. I'm here with Eerik and my name is Remo. Hello Eerik, what's up?
Hello Remo, good morning. Sounds good. Christmas is still going on, at least this quiet time before the year ends.
Yep, it's almost done, so the Christmas is over.
Yeah.
I will see what happens next. So what are we talking about today?
It's December 2024, so as we agreed with you, it probably will be a good idea and symbolic to talk about events which happened in December exactly 100 years ago, when our eastern neighbor, Soviet Russia at this time, Soviet Union already, tried to organize overthrowing the legal government and capture Estonia, despite the fact that peace treaty was signed 4 years ago, and we hope that all the battles are settled forever. But no, they prepared a huge coup d'etat, and Estonian destiny was actually so close that something bad will happen. But thanks to good leadership, I have to say, we managed to survive in this 1st of December 1924. So pretty interesting subject from my point of view.
All right, so what happened?
What happened?
Read us in.
Okay, so after the War of Independence, 1918, 1920, and we will talk about the end of the War of Independence in our coming podcast, Estonia realized now the hardest time is over, and now we are in this neutral, or this not happy, not very bad time, but now in the neutral time, and people are starting to forget that, hey, what we came through. Economical situation was, of course, not the best one in the early 20s. And disappointment about it started to grow. So different opinions in the society, how to come through this not very high level living standard was different. And of course, Soviet Russia used it to get more fuel in those feelings. Hey, you see, your government don't care about you, and breaking away from Russia was not doing any good because your industry is not doing good also. And they hoped, or maybe, I don't know, at least they tried to convince them that workers and not so well doing parts of society will support the invasion of communist troops. And of course they wanted to show it for the world that, hey, it's actually coming from inside. It's not our attack. People are uprising against the evil capitalist government, which didn't work. But anyway, preparations were going on, and by the end of 1924, by the end of 1924, they were ready to start the physical attack. And approximately 200 people were prepared, even more, who were actually deployed secretly from Soviet Union, were armed, and were creating illegal attacking groups or battle groups to capture the key institutions in December. So the government, of course, the military academy, which at this time was in Tallinn, in Tondi area, and of course the post office, because at this time it was very important to send messages around the world. So the key institutions had to be taken. And that's how the plan was prepared. It was prepared on the highest level of the Soviet government. So even Joseph Stalin himself participated in some initial meetings to agree this plan. Lev Trotsky and other really top leaders of the Soviet management, Soviet government. And from so-called Estonian communist side, the very well-known leader, Jaan Anvelt, was like a top executor of this plan. And on early morning, 1st of December, the attack started at 5 o'clock. They were pretty successful in the beginning. So they managed to occupy the railway station, where the Minister of Transportation was killed because he came to inspect what is going on there. They were pretty successful in certain other places, but the first real place where they struggled, where they faced the real struggle, were actually military academies. They killed 4 cadets sleeping, but other cadets, young and trained men, managed to take the weapons and actually push them out of the academy. And then it started to go not so well for the attackers. Overall, 13 attackers were killed. On the defender side, 26, among them 4 cadets from military academy, 4 policemen, and several civilians. So even they managed to attack the airport. Even they managed to take some police stations. By the end of the day, it was obvious this thing collapsed. And before we will move to the lessons learned or lessons identified, that was a pretty much the key points of this story. Soviet Union prepared overthrowing the government and pretending or showing to the world like it was organized from inside. That was the main idea. But thanks God it failed.
Mm-hmm. So
is it sufficient first explanation of the story?
So let me try to read back to you. So like we just got independent as a country. We are a few years in, and then Soviet Union pretty much decides that, hey, they want us to be part of their country. So they come up with a plan how to do that. And their plan was pretty much to showcase that, hey, there is a problem within the country. And then they would come and start supporting that initiative, come and help the people. And eventually that would be a way how to get the country to be part of their union. And then they had summoned and sent 200 people in all over strategic places to execute the plan. And obviously they said it's not us. I would say if they failed on this, it's just a matter of what they did. And now we know it from the history. And then pretty much they killed the minister. They killed military personnel. They got 13 people killed, 26 defendants people killed. So it's could you imagine this happening right now? What would kind of what just putting ourselves into that time frame and just trying to imagine, hey, this kind of thing happened here. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, thank you that you brought this comparison, this example. I agree. To imagine something today that someone is trying to attack and capture, take over police stations and the military academy, and the Minister of Transportation is killed at the railway station. It is really hard to imagine. But again, what we can compare, Estonian society was living in a kind of also, I don't know, is it a fairy tale? But maybe we try to convince ourselves, hey, this hard time's over, the war is over. We are the first country in the world who managed to sign peace treaty with Soviet Union. They officially said enough is enough. Let's live peacefully. And by the way, Soviet Union used us as a possibility to have a first contact in the West because we opened the door. They managed to do some trade thanks to us. They managed to use our banks for trading. So, of course, come on, this threat is not real anymore. Even our Kaitse Liit, our defense league, it was actually dismantled after the War of Independence. These events, 1924, actually lead us back to the idea, hey, wait a minute, we need this. And that was reinvented, reestablished, but that came later. I can't imagine the same, but maybe it's good that we sometimes ask ourselves the question, what happened yesterday, so 26th of December, again, the cable, the connection cable between Estonia and Finland was damaged. This time, Finnish police and border guard used force. They actually took the ship, escorted it to the harbor So what it is, in the year it's a third event already. So could we imagine like 5 years ago that we have some civilian ships going back and forward in the Gulf of Finland and just destroying the internet connections between countries? It wouldn't be like realistic 5-6 years ago. Now we face it the third time a year, and we all know who is doing it. Now the question is how much courage we have to stand up.
So what was the escalation after that in 1924? What was the response to this kind of thing?
Initially it was shock for the society. Hey, it happened. And on the tactical level, it was actually, we could see both examples. Some of military personnel were, by the way, court-martialed because they did not fought back. And it didn't go very smoothly on the defending side as well in the beginning. So thanks for the decentralized command, I should say, because the cadets, they didn't get any clear instructions. For them, it was definitely a surprise. But they were so self-disciplined and self-organized, so they managed to do the SOP was so well in place. If we are attacked in the rooms, how are we going to respond? And when the military academy was not taken, that was also a breaking of plan for the attackers. They actually freezed. They were frozen. Okay, what's next? Boom. And the time momentum changed. So what was definitely good, and Estonian response was very fast. So security services who actually knew kind of some parts of the plan and knew something about the preparation, they started quite quickly and aggressively to arrest people who were involved in this. So several hundreds people were actually involved who were like supporters of this coup d'etat. And because the court-martialing system was established and emergency state was declared by the government, so 155 were executed who were actually supported this violent overthrow of the government. So very good movie, Estonian movie, December Heat, with the good actors describing those stories, of course, in a little bit maybe romantic and artificial way. But what I read and took as a lesson out of it, so decentralized command, default aggressive approach, that was two things which actually saved Estonia. If the whole defense forces and police station would have been waiting, okay, what's the next, they probably would be successful. And some funny story as well. One of the famous Estonian generals, Ernst Põder, our legend from the War of Independence, pretty old man at this time, and he was actually a heavy drinker. So he was walking home at this night from the officer's casino, and he saw attackers trying to take over the post office. And he went into the battle with his pistol and started to shoot them, which was a shock. And he quickly organized some reservists he saw in Tallinn. Hey, now let's go back, take back this place and the other place. So actually, thanks that he was not sleeping, and he had a very good battle experience, how to rearrange the plan in 30 seconds. So he took initiative. He was not even responsible for the defending Tallinn. He was accidentally in Tallinn and going to have a nice drinking party. And immediately he said, okay, fine, I see the situation. I don't know other commanders' intent, but I know the overall why I'm here. I understand the like a mission, the higher mission. And he started to act. So what it shows, from the War of Independence, we learned a lot how to improvise. And that saved Estonia. So again, to sum it up, decentralized command, default aggressive mindset, and understanding the why. So those three pillars saved us in this night.
So that was the how we responded during that day. So what happened after? Like all of this was like, now you understand that you were attacked. It was coordinated attack. What was the response after that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because One thing is a tactical response. The other thing, you have to understand something went wrong. Something didn't work in that plan. First of all, Estonian government re-established and reinvested the time and resources into the voluntary defense league. We understood that we're a small country. We will never be able to have sufficient enough resources compared to Soviet Union, but the whole population need to be involved in a state defense. So that was one important step. So the role of Defense League and Kaitseliit was recreated. The other thing, naivety disappeared. We understood who is living next door, and our security services, political police at this time, and the military intelligence section 2, they got a very clear understanding. You need to be prepared. To be prepared, you need to know your enemy. So you need to work to collect intelligence on them. But you need to have a people behind you. So a very much investment was done how to involve population into the projects which will make a life better. So it was definitely on the political level as well pretty clear understanding that the social problems, they cannot be ignored. People have to feel that, hey, it's a part of me. I have opportunities, I have possibilities to make my life better. And actually some painful decisions about the monetary system were made, but it started from Estonian economy perspective, started many good things, and by the beginning of 30s, Estonian life was actually much better. So I don't know.
It's kind of like it united people, I guess, right?
For sure. It's a very good how you actually told it. Yes, it's definitely united because people understood that, hey, wait a minute, it will not bring us anything better. And that was actually a very good sign. Estonian government realized that despite of the fact we have arguments, despite of the fact not everyone is doing great, it actually collapsed. It was only Tallinn where the attacks happened. Initially, it was planned in several other cities. It was planned in Tartu, it was planned in Rakvere, it was planned in many, many other places. But people who they actually, I don't know, was it a wishful thinking? But for the Soviet government, Estonian communists created a so-called nice picture that, hey, after the first initial attack, the whole worker class will be behind us and it will be thousands of people taking arms and attacking Estonian government, which didn't happen. Estonian workers even having a hard times because still country was, coming from this First World War and the War of Independence. It was still a lot of wounds. And we can't forget that we lost in a First World War 10,000 young men, in a War of Independence 5,000, so 15,000 of a young people taking out of life circle, taking out of the economy. But they understood that, hey, it will not be anything better if we give up now. We need to go through these difficult times. And that was kind of I don't know, can we call it a leader credit? Maybe. It was kind of given credit. Hey guys, we still trust you. So even if you are doing painful decisions, we still trust you. So I think that was a very good sign that in a hard times we actually understand the higher why. We can whine about, we can argue about, we can disagree with each other, even blame each other. But in a critical situation, we understand, hey, wait a minute. Doesn't matter what kind of a stone, it's still the only place we have, and we need to work with this team. There is no bad teams, there is only bad leaders.
To me, what it reminds, and what I had discussion yesterday, is that when it's about surviving, we are able to unite very easily. Now, after we have survived, like, for example, if you think about survival in terms of finances in your own personal life, if you don't have any money, if you don't have any food, it's very clear what you have to do. Like, it's very clear. Doesn't matter. Like, you just focus on how to get by, how to get food, and you figure out ways, and you have a focus. Now, after you have gotten out from the survival mode, now you understand that, hey, I'm getting decent living, I have a good food on the table, Now you have opportunities to choose what I do next, because now there is a lot of opportunities what I can focus on, and the focus and the mission is not so clear because it doesn't threaten your survivability. Now what happens is we get complacent, right? Because it is not so clear and we have to dig deep to even figure out what's the mission. What is my mission? I have no idea, because I have already gotten to the level where I have a good life. I have decent amount of money. I have decent amount of resources. I have a good relationship. So what's next? And it's to me, it feels like it's exponentially much harder to be able to choose the focus when things are good. Because when things are bad, it's very clear what you have to do, because there is not so many choices. It's very clear what you have to do. It's very clear what you have to focus on. And now as time goes by, it gets more vague and vague and vague. And then you have to even work more and be more disciplined and be more kind of harder on you, because otherwise you will lose it all. And then you go to the place where, it's very clear again, because you need to survive. Now you come out from the survival, and it's so easily, like human beings so easily forgets. But at the same time, to me as well, it's such a good thing to me to be in that survival mode. If I could have that survival mentality all the time, I would say that's a winner's mentality. If you are able to take that survival's mentality and take the same attitude into something, whatever it is, you will win. Because you will get through it. Because survival instinct is the most important thing, and it feels so good when you know what to do and why you do it. Because when you're surviving, you know why you're doing it, to survive. But now, if you have so many options and you're not surviving anymore, it's pretty difficult to find out what's the most important thing, because then we are starting to get into arguments and emotions and all the other shit that could be considered as not important.
I agree that when you are eager to achieve something, then this survival mode is essential. At the same time, we have spoken so much about the balance. If you're living all your life in a survival mode, it will be devastating as well. Then you'll start to ask it, wait a minute, why we exist? And when we again, Estonia survived in 1924, probably because we understood this highest why, that our state is made, created, declared, established to keep our traditions, language, and culture through the centuries, like it's written in our constitution. Now, to enjoy the culture, to enjoy mental development, you need to have these happy times as well. But you can't achieve those happy times if you don't have survival mode. So definitely in this 1st of December 1924, the survival mode was switched on. And I'm really happy that it was switched on in all layers of society. It doesn't matter were you young cadet on the street, or you were leaders of the government, because even the house of the head of state was attacked. The grenade was thrown there. He survived, but the attack was on such a dramatic and high level. So survival mode was definitely in place. And especially when we think, if that would happen, that the post office would have been captured, and really this letter of asking for support would have been sent to Soviet Union, because Soviet Union already had thousands of troops ready on the border to invade, to support the people who so-called asking for help. If that show would be successful, we wouldn't be here today. Definitely.
Yeah.
Estonia would have been part of the Soviet Russia in 1924, and definitely we wouldn't even use Estonian language anymore. So
what do you think? Are we switched? What do you think? Are we switched on right now? as a country or as people?
Wow, that's a $1 billion question. Are we already on survival mode? I had a privilege to talk yesterday with two students, Estonian students, but they are studying in the Netherlands. And young ladies in early 20s, they studying at the architecture schools, and they described that understanding of a Dutch younger generation about the possible threat what we see in Europe. It's actually different from the same age people living in Estonia. Even we are both part of European Union. We use the same money. We probably watch the same movies. We use a lot of same language even if we come to English. But Estonia definitely is more aware. Are we on survival mode? No, definitely not. Ukraine is right now on the survival mode because they know they don't have option. They cannot sign a peace because for them it wouldn't be a peace. It would be surrender, which means actually erasing them from the map of the world. They don't have option to fight, other options than fight. So are we in this situation right now? No. But taking into consideration this event with the cables between Estonia and Finland yesterday, unfortunately, I think we are coming closer to this. When we have to think, hey, wait a minute, that is our survival mode. Now, other arguments has to be put aside. That's the main focus.
So, the Ukraine is kind of in a black and white decision-making situation. It's survive or die. We are kind of in the gray area, which is the most dangerous one, which you don't know specifically, and you are somewhere in the middle where you don't know specifically what's going on. And I mean, Ukraine is on full alert. It's really difficult to surprise them. There is so many ways how to surprise us. There is so many opportunities to surprise us because there is this, all of our eyes are looking in one direction. This is a deceiving game, how to strategize, how to deceive us in general. And at the same time, it seems to be that it would be the worst time to attack us because we are also ready and the military is also ready and they are looking in the directions where it should be the worst time to attack when in the Sun Tzu, or how do you say it, the art of war.
The art of war, yeah, Sun Tzu, yes, this great Chinese leader.
So he has this his book is kind of interesting because he's saying those obvious things. If attack where nobody's looking, it's really? When enemy is strong on one place, don't attack it from there. Really? So I would say that at the moment it's it would be pretty all of our alert systems are on 100%. And I mean, it kind of is the worst time to attack us based on that because we are ready, we're waiting. So interestingly enough, if that would be our kind of state, we would then assume that we will not be attacked because we are so ready, we are waiting. But now if a surprise could be an actual attack because nobody's anticipating that, even though you are waiting for it, but it comes, you're we are ready, so because we are ready, nobody's attacking, but now that's the surprise. So there are so many ridiculous levels. I mean, it's not really logical, I would say, because you will have huge losses, but I mean, our enemies really don't care about the huge losses.
When you describe the Sun Tzu and the reason why his book is still mandatory at the military academy for all officers, even if it's more than 2,000 years old, I agree that he describes simple and obvious things. But during our lessons or our trainings, we also say that to be simple is very important. And when you think about his book, he's actually describing very simple things. Yes, you have to be default aggressive and find where your enemy is weakest. You have to understand the higher mission, because sometimes you don't have communication with your higher command, and especially several thousand years ago, you didn't have lines of communications. It took days to send a message. So you need decentralized command. And he was actually describing in his book Decentralized Command in several places that if a ruler, the emperor, placed you in power and you are commander of his troops, the emperor hasn't have a right anymore to interfere and trying to lead instead of you, micromanaging. Micromanaging in his book was like a red line. If I'm commander, if you trusted me and you gave me your army, now stay away. You can replace me if you want to, if you're not satisfied. But if you have been enough trusting me, putting me in place, stay away. So that was definitely a very important. And what you just said, of course, surprise, speed, and power. If you can surprise your enemy, that's the best way. If you have failed in surprise, you have to be faster. And if you have failed in speed, you have to be so much more powerful, which is the worst case, because then you're fighting one-to-one. And for us, the worst case scenario where capacity, capability, and intent of our enemy is in place. So is our historical enemy, does he have, she has a capacity to attack us? For sure, definitely, hundreds times bigger. Capability, is the time frame the best for them now? Probably not, because they have other places, other worries to do. So capacity exists, capability kind of. Intent, for sure. But now the question, is it immediate intent or not? But if all these three things are meeting each other, they are in one place, capacity, capability, intent, that's really bad. And surprise, we are expecting, and I think we are very well prepared if we have classical attack. Definitely, we understand what to do in the forest, what to do in urban areas. But if it's not black and white, if it's again a cable, if it's a small step over the river, if it's a kind of a ununderstandable explosion in the middle of the city, if it's a collapsing of a bridge, you know who is doing it, but you don't have like a clear visible signs, and that's a self-preservation. You're trying to lie to yourself. Hey, wait a minute, that was not it. We don't want to go to this thin red line. And that's a problem where our nerves and their nerves are playing on the edge. I think that is the most dangerous situation, which was, again, described by Sun Tzu. That's a surprise. Do something your enemy are not prepared to, what he is not expecting.
So I asked just right now from ChatGPT to provide some ideas based on his book to Europe at the moment, and that's what he said. First bullet is strategic awareness. Know your enemy, know yourself. Relevance to Europe. The importance of understanding adversaries, Russian strategy, objectives or Chinese influence, and internal strengths and weaknesses, economic dependencies, military preparedness. Europe must prioritize intelligence gathering, cyber defense, and resilience to hybrid warfare. What's missing? Coordination and sharing of intelligence among European nations, a unified, clear assessment of emerging threats in cyberspace, energy dependence, and foreign influences. So that's know your enemy, know yourself. Then the second thing is flexibility in strategy. Be formless like water. Relevance to Europe. Adaptability is crucial in responding to diverse threats like cyber attacks, economic cohesion, and kinetic warfare. Flexibility in energy policies and supply chains to reduce dependencies on adversarial nations. What's missing? Greater flexibility in EU decision-making, which can sometimes be hindered by bureaucracy and need for unanimous agreements. Shift action mechanisms for collective security and economic resilience. What else is here? Unity and alliance. Who relies solely on military force shall perish. See? Like, it's not only about the military.
No.
Strength lies in unity of within the European Union and NATO. Economic, diplomatic, and military efforts must complement each other. Cooperation with allies, United States, UK, and other democracies remains critical. Preparedness, victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Relevance to Europe. Ensuring readiness and deterrence capabilities to prevent conflicts from escalating. Because that's the interesting one, I think, like if you do it right, you can only get the result if things are wrong. Like every day at the moment, we should celebrate it because our defense and our European Union is working. Because there's no war.
Yes.
Now, and like you can whine and complain, but at the moment everything is working. And that was the same thing when I was part of one, I was hosting one ministry's like strategy session. And then what was interesting about it was that the customers, like the idea is that they had two companies coming and speaking about how ministry can support them better. And what was interesting about it is that they were like in a way like hinting or giving advice how to do things better, how to make better rules, that it would be more flexible. Is it more about control? Is it more about flexibility? And that was the kind of the dichotomy that we are kind of, is it like, should ministry give advice or come there and control? Like what's the actual thing, which one you should choose? And to me, it was interesting, like I was like, hey, actually, like the ministry has done a great job because otherwise your company couldn't be so successful at the moment. So if you at the moment look at the situation where we are at the moment and you are able to thrive in this society, in this marketplace, in this environment, and you are super successful, isn't that what you want the ministry to enable you to do? It shows that the ministry is working very well because you have the possibility to even win at the moment and be so successful, which kind of means that the system at the moment in place is actually working very well, because otherwise your company wouldn't be successful. So it means that it works. There might be signs that things are going in the wrong direction, or there might be some things that can be advanced, but in general picture, everything is super good, but you don't appreciate that. You only appreciate that when you lose it. That's kind of the human tendency as well, that you have to lose something and things have to go shit. And then it's very clear when things come good after they have turned into shit. Then you are measurable. Hey, it was bad, now it's good, successful. But now if you're maintaining good times, it's really difficult to define the victory every day. It's really difficult to appreciate it every day because you have it. You kind of haven't done anything. And now you start focusing on the details and you may get into tunnel vision. So interesting psychology there. Well, fifth one, what it's providing is supreme art of war is subdue the enemy without fighting. So win without fighting, economic warfare. The skillful fighter puts himself beyond the possibility of defeat. Leadership and vision. A leader leads by example, not by force. Strong leadership is required to rally diverse nations towards common goals, whether in addressing climate change, security change, or migration. Leaders must inspire trust and resilience with their population. What's missing? Constant visionary leadership to maintain unity in times of crisis. Because if you mean like Europe, like there is no broadcast of saying, hey, all Europe, we are united, blah, 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 blah. Everything is decentralized. So everyone has to be really doing a really great job of providing the actual intent of Europe. So conclusion from the book or from ChatGPT based on that book. What Europe should consider now? Enhanced strategic coordination. Build strong ties between EU and NATO to ensure seamless response to military and non-military threats. So cover and move for sure. And what the enemy wants to do is split and push us into silos. That's what they want to do, what they want to achieve. strengthen resilience, invest in critical infrastructure, cybersecurity, sustainable energy to reduce vulnerabilities, boost unity and vision, promote solidarity among EU nations, particularly in defense and foreign policy, adapt to hybrid threats, prepare for challenges that blend military, economic, and information tactics, lead with values, uphold democratic principle and human rights as counterweight to authoritarian influences. So, this book it makes sense. It can be applied.
Even now.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why it's so brilliant.
But what I really love about what you just mentioned, that you have to be so strong that you understand the best victories are achieved without fighting. So you are so strong that actually nobody even dares to touch you, to test you. Ronald Reagan in late 80s, when the Berlin Wall came down, with his famous speech when he was in West Berlin, he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." So he had a vision. He had lead by example. He definitely was able to put the values, ideas in a very short, simple and clear sentences. Very good actor, I think. And final result was that he chose so talently, he chose different approaches, so Soviet Union just couldn't sustain this economical war against the West and collapsed without actually any single shot. Okay, we had proxy wars in Korea, in Vietnam, in several other places, but no direct controversial thing. Kinetic war between the NATO and the Soviet Union at this time. Even West Berlin was actually surrounded by, I was looking on the statistics, it was 26 divisions of Soviet army and the East German army in East Germany at this time. And from the NATO side, it was more than 300,000 guys ready to shoot in the Western Germany. But Soviet Union knew that even maybe by numbers, they could outnumber the NATO. They never even thought about, because they understood that the response will be immediate and very severe. That's why it never happened. European Union was created after the World War II with only one idea: to make such economical bondages between old enemies, Germany and France, so strong that discover and move, they need each other. They cannot fight each other. They need. And now we have lived in Europe where we haven't seen a war for 80 years, not mentioning the unfortunate case with Ukraine now. But within European Union, within the NATO, we haven't seen fightings for 80 years. So France and Germany, who regularly after every 25 years have a wars, are now one of the biggest allies. So it is possible to change if you really strategically approach, but you start by building small steps. Let's start from the steel industry. Let's put the steel industry together. Okay, that's the first step. Now let's go to the same money, etc., etc. But coming back to this topic of the 1st of December, what I like that we have not forgotten this example, even it was 100 years ago, and it was commemorated, of course it was a 100-year jubileum, but it was commemorated and analyzed quite widely in mass media, in TV, in different discussion forums, because it was a good example, what you actually brought out, that people start to value, people start to appreciate things they have lost. Estonian Republic was definitely not the ideal place or perfect place before the World War II. But we are maybe a little bit even during the Soviet occupation started to create some kind of a idealistic image. Why? Because we lost something which was good, and even it was not perfect, we started to appreciate it much more when it was lost. In 1940, maybe not all the people understood, hey, wait a minute, that's going to be a big disaster for the next half of century. Maybe that's why I remember from my grandparents that why this period before the World War II was so much described in a romantic way, because it was something much better than we saw now. And even they were complaining and they saying, hey, it was hard times and it was unemployment, etc. After you have lost it, you understand, wait a minute, it was not so bad at all. And if we think now, how many people we have in Estonia who say, hey, I'm not satisfied with this decision, this situation. I agree, we have a lot of problems. But in our worst nightmare, if we just can for a second to imagine if we have lost it, how dear it's going to be for us then. And that's why we have constantly prepare. And I agree, it's not only military strength. It is actually strength of our people that we are ready to sacrifice. The other tragic date, or I don't know, jubileum, was 30 years ago, also in December, 15th of December 1994. Two police officers were killed and one was severely injured in an ambush in this wild 90s. So if we can't imagine coup d'etat in 1924 happening today, I think we are living in a pretty safe society, because we can't imagine that a truck with a stolen alcohol could be a reason to ambush 4 police officers, get 2 killed and 1 wounded. So, but that was a normality in 1990s. And those people, those young police officers who are sacrificing their lives, they also understood the higher mission, in my understanding, because if you are not creating this safety feeling among the people, probably you are not creating a strong society. So in a way, they were also the role models for the future colleagues. But if it would have happened, knocking on the wood, if that would happen today, that would be like a huge, I can't even imagine what it would be, the huge shock. But then, in those wild 90s, well, okay, it happened. We're going to be strong. We're going to be fight. And those people at the service in those 90s actually create better times for the guys joining now. So hard times create strong men. So those strong men coming through this wild 90s created much safer society today. And the same in 1924, very hard men having a hard experience from the War of Independence, which just ended 4 years ago, with a real battle experience, where terrorists on the streets of Tallinn tried to seize the power. They did not lose a cold blood. It's okay, fine, bad situation. We will do this, this, and this, because we prepared. In 1940, you see, we didn't have enough cold blood anymore to say, hey, we're going to fight, or we are ready, or we are mentally prepared. We started to, wait a minute, how to avoid it. So the first self-preservation, how to avoid it. In 1924, when we had this huge disaster going on the streets, the first was survival mode. We need to stop it, and then we will discuss what to do next. 20 years later, or 16 years later, we are probably were living in such a good and stable society that we were not mentally prepared anymore. But hey, we need to counterattack. So what is your understanding? Is it really possible to change this awareness or strength in one generation? Yes. So we are keeping our children so safe away from any possible difficult situation that when they are facing difficult situation, they are not mentally able to sustain them? Or am I going too far with this discussion?
Yeah, I think it's. I think what we have been doing here in Estonia, we have the conscript service. We have had that as a mandatory thing, which is kind of a reminder of constantly. We have seen other countries in Europe to stop the mandatory conscription service, and I mean that will. I mean, as like what I. Like just looking on it from the perspective what we have been just discussing here, it would be a good enough reason just to have conscription service just because of the alert system, that it will remind us what can happen. And only that would be a good enough reason why to continue with the conscript service forever. Because if you take that away, it's a part of education, it's a part of our culture, it's part of our history, it's part of all of that. And it has other benefits, obviously, as well. So I think that you have to then, if you are good Saims, you have to artificially create something or a tradition, or you have to maintain somehow the memory of how you got here. Because if you forget how you get here, as a part
of education,
you start focusing on things that didn't bring you here, and most likely the things that, if you forget those things, eventually you will lose it. So you always have to keep those hard things in mind. And now if you hold your children or the generation in a fake environment, in retrospect, it's good, but you still have to be realistic, and you have to have those tools not rusting. They have to be at least oiled. So you have to maintain readiness so you can actually use them when needed, because history shows that there will be time when you need them, and it will be much, much more difficult if they're rusting and if you don't know where they are, and it will take time. So it's better if you know where they are, you remember how to use them, and now you may not be as efficient, but now again, there will be signs when you know that, hey, now I have to start getting more efficient because the situation needs to be, I need to get more efficient at the moment or whatever. So that's why I think you need to maintain, you have to have oil. You have to oil your tools and you keep them. You can't lose how to build a house. Like make a book, how to build a pyramid, because otherwise no one else understands how it's done. And it could be a thing that you need to kind of give to the future generations. So there is always something to learn from the previous generation. It seems like human life or life expectancy or life in general is so short that it's so easy to forget a lot of things, because we get used to environment where we live in. So, but definitely I think we should remember, because if we don't, we will fail.
I totally agree. And again, one connection with these events 100 years ago. Actually, our eastern neighbor has tried it in a recent history as well. If I remember 2007 and removing of Soviet memorial to the military cemetery from the center of our capital, which created also by support of a Russian embassy and of course Russian intelligence services, created a huge mass disorder on the streets, looting, rioting for 3 days. And it was also a reminder that they have an intent to create tensions in our society. Also, one person was killed, several police officers were injured. It was a billions of lost goods. It's really, the losses were huge in economical way, in different other things. So Estonia was put under the biggest and first seen cyber attack in this era. So it was kind of the same coup d'etat like 100 years ago, but in a modern form. So maybe thanks to the location where we are, we've been constantly reminded that, hey, training never ends. You need to be, like you said, you need to have your tools ready. Estonia were enjoying, after 91, okay, we had these hard times, but after we joined European Union, after we were part of NATO, I think we also get relaxed. Okay, nothing happens anymore. Everything is good. And now, in 2007, when we had approximately 2,000 people on the street, looting, smashing windows, breaking cars, stealing stuff from the shops, it was also wake-up call. And Can we guarantee that our eastern neighbor will not trying to do the same in a coming future? Of course not. In February, we will have Estonia cutting off from the energy system of Russia and joining the Western European system. It will definitely be a critical moment, because I'm more than sure that hybrid warfare or kind of steps or attempts to create maybe electrical shortcomings or some kind of instability, they will definitely use it. Why? Because to create insecurity, instability, and the tensions in society. If you have February and you have, I don't know, half of city cold and in dark, it definitely will create some bad moods. So I think in some of our coming podcasts, we definitely need to analyze this 2007, this bronze riot, what led to it, and what lessons we have learned as a nation, and of course, in more specific way as security institutions, because that was definitely a hybrid attack. That was a definitely attack against our values, our stability, and it again reminds that it happens, and it will happen. We don't know in what form. It will be surprise, but that's why planning is more important than plan. We need to have a very good processes trained, that even if it happens with a statue, or it happens in a hybrid warfare, or it happens in a I don't know, like a classical attack against some critical infrastructure, we are so well planned, we're so well trained, that we can manage different scenarios. If we just train for one scenario, and then scenario will be different, I think we will not be successful. And that's probably was key to success in 1st of December 1924, and that was probably led us to success in 2007. That we were good in planning, we were good in preparation.
So to summarize today's conversation, so the key lessons from the ChatGPT about the 2024 coup and the
1924.
Yeah, 1924, and have we been able to learn? I will let you straight away know, and then if you have anything to add, then let me know. But the key lessons identified is that you need to strengthen national security. The coup showed how vulnerable Estonia was to subversion. It highlighted the need for strong security force and intelligence counter threats. Number 2, be ready for foreign interference. Act quickly and decisively. Fast and unified action by the government, police, military stopped the coup in hours. Maintain public support. The population largely supported the government, showing how important it is to address social issues and keep people loyal. Focus on economic and social stability. Economic hardship and social unrest were exploited by the insurgents, emphasizing the need for strong and fair economy. So if you are not able to manage your country and keep it on the right track, that will be used against you. Have these lessons been learned? Number 1, yes, national security is stronger. Estonia has robust intelligence as part of NATO, ensuring better protection against threats. Yes, foreign influence is monitored. Estonia counters Russian propaganda, cyber attacks, and hybrid threats with advanced defenses. Yes, rapid response systems are in place. Estonia is well prepared to respond quickly in crisis with military and civilian coordination. Yes, economic stability has improved. Investments in digital technology and social programs have strengthened the economy and reduced unrest. Challenges remain. Hybrid threats like cyber attacks and disinformation are ongoing. Economic inequality and energy security still need attention. The conclusion: Estonia has learned from 2024 coup, become more secure, resilient. However, vigilance and continued investment in security, unity, and economic stability are essential to handle modern challenges. Anything to add?
No, I think that was a very positive conclusion that we have learned. And that's, I think, the biggest positive outcome always, that yes, we have definitely made mistakes, what led us 100 years ago into this situation. It was not our fault, but it was our mistake. but we learned from it and we became stronger. So I hope that those unstable times, what we see right now around our country, will also provide us at least lessons identified, and I hope lessons learned.
Yep. So what's the, from our conversation today, what's the one main thing that you figured out, or what you didn't anticipate before? To me, it's
sorry.
I just to interrupt you so you have a time to think. To me, the thing what I wrote down is showing force is a sign of weakness, which is weird,
Wow.
right? You are strong, and that's why what the art of war said, like like if you're strong, you don't need to kind of react because you're strong, you're confident, you don't care. But now, if you are showing force, it is a sign of weakness. Now, why is Russia doing the things that they do? They're weak. They must be weak on some aspects. So whatever they try to hide is behind the actual attacks, because they want to seem strong, but in reality they're weak.
Wow, that's a very good dichotomy as well. Yes, of course they like a bullies at the school. They because hiding their own weaknesses, hiding their own fears, probably. And I agree that Russia is behaving like she's behaving now because she's afraid. She's afraid that she will not look so cool, powerful, like she wants to be.
Nope.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's interesting the same way with like US, right? Like I don't know, US has like 800 military bases outside from US, and I mean we've been part of many conflicts. Now, as they are so powerful, they're like when they get to war, it's a sign of weakness because they were not able to prevent it. Now they are just have to compensate it with the strength so that people wouldn't see the weakness. It's interesting dichotomies.
I think one of our podcasts in this case should be actually analyze of the Cuban or Caribbean missile crisis in 60s, where the world was it was probably the closest scenario to the closest situation where in the Cold War to the nuclear conflict, probably some hours only away. And it was also the game of nerves. But both sides...
I think that would be interesting.
That would be very interesting. And then I have a chance to talk about my favorite, one of the favorite US presidents, Kennedy. But was it at the same time, again, dichotomy, you have to be ready to show your force. And sometimes showing a force, sometimes it's preventing you from the war. Like Sun Tzu says, that the best battles are battles which are won without the real conflict or without real fight. I think this missile crisis in 60s was definitely a very good example where show of force balanced with a wisdom and detachment. Please don't stop this last step, was very interesting. But in the case of our today's topic about this coup d'etat 100 years ago, I think the problem was that Estonia was not showing enough the confidence in preparedness, and enemy tried to use it. It was not enough this self-confidence showing of force, because a show of force can be in two different modes. One is a Russian mode. I'm attacking. I'm really aggressive all the time. The other thing, I'm present. Don't touch me, like this example of the US bases. So you probably would not dare to attack the US base because you know the outcome 99%. Mm-hmm. Now, when you are sending a message that you are not sure about your force, like happened in Afghanistan in August 21, that you are the most powerful, but your adversaries start to lose faith that you are ready to use this force, you're just leaving, that will be totally counterproductive, because that will show you, hey, you showed the force, but that was fake. And that's even more dangerous. So where is the balance? Again, that would be very, very interesting topic for us to discuss. A balanced show of force as a sign of self-confidence, and the show of force as a sign of weakness. That would be very, very interesting. Remo, thanks for bringing it up. That's definitely a good topic when we tie it to different historical examples.
Yep, I think that would be one of the topics for the next time. So, but let's wrap it up today, and I will end it with the key idea from Sun Tzu: the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Strength lies in using force wisely, only when necessary, and in a way that avoids conflict if possible. So let's start avoiding conflicts if possible. If not, then we have to go to war. All right.
Was great to talk to you, and see you soon.